Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Jake. You can also call me Atrocious, and today we are finally taking a look at the 3v3 final to cap off OP08.5 right before Trafalgar Law, the leader, and Ennis Lobby get banned from the format. So this is the final event, the final one. You already know the matchup in Law and Enel. Law's final match before it gets put to the wayside alongside Sakazuki. So excited to do this one, even though it's maybe not a matchup that a lot of people are interested in because one side is banned. Could be good to get a little insight, especially for Westerners, on how Enel is based, because with Trafalgar Law being banned, Enel gets a little bit more of the meta share, just like most other decks, so more likely to be able to see that deck in the tournaments that you play in. Now, if you're wondering how I'm watching this, I'm watching the official VOD from the official One Piece trading card game channel, just rewatching this as we usually do. We do this for all of the championships to try to get you some unique English commentary to be able to maybe understand what's going on in this game. You can check out the official link, their link to this broadcast, down in the description below. I always provide it there as always. And before we get into it, just wanted to remind you all of the giveaway that we're doing as partnership of Mecha Japan. So before October 1st, you can join in on a giveaway for a sealed copy of the second anniversary complete guide with these beautiful, it's on this side, these beautiful Onami and Zoro promos. You can enter for free. I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'll leave a link to the video that tells you all about how to get into it in the description below. And if you go to Mecha Japan on my official affiliate link, tinyurl.com/mechajake, if you spend $80 or more, you can use code Atrocious5 to get $5 off USD of your order. So that's enough of the business. Let's get into the matchup. So we've seen this team on the right side before, the Enel team, along with the Doflamingo. We've seen them in a couple rounds, and looks like life has already been put out. Starting hands are settled. We have a Gordon, two Kid Killers in this hand. We have a Reiju and a Eustace Captain Kid. Not a bad hand, right? You've got some rush, you've got some power in the side, because you know Enel is going to be taking life, so those Kid Killers are going to be activated at 7 pretty quickly, I would imagine. You have a Gordon to be able to bottom deck and draw power through Reiju with Dawn Regeneration as well. And for the Enel, you've got a couple 2Ks and the Frankie and the two Flampes. The Flampes may be nice if you feel like you need to awaken yourself, along with a 0 cost event and a Nami right there. So the Nami could be nice, I feel like, in some situations, especially when Black Marias come down on the field, right? Because Nami, right, pops any 5 cost or less, so even the Eustace Captain Kid can get popped, and that's going to be basically every single character on the Law's side of the field. So Nami could be really relevant in this matchup, but it looks like the Trafalgar Law is going to be going first. We'll see if they preemptively play that Gordon going off right here. It's a little tricky with the Gordons because, especially in this format, Enel's still running things like Gadatsu, and so having Gadatsu on that side means a character is going to get popped, but not too early, especially when all the characters that do popping effects are like 5 Dawn or more, so you got a couple turns for this Gordon. And so after the play Gordon and pass, Enel is just going to draw a pass right off to him, not opting to use the Flampe. And so now at 3 Dawn, just going to be swinging 8 at lead. And the cool thing about this 8 as well is if there is a play character trigger, which there is not, it's going to be a 10-drop ace, which is really nice. The final piece of the puzzle for Enel, finding those big bodies as they get another Nami in hand. And they're just going to pass it off to the red purple Laws. So now at 5 Dawn right here, we could start seeing some characters get played, right? It's a little bit awkward of a hand. We could see Queen come down. Queen does a Dawn minus, but you would be able to filter out your hand a little bit, especially off of this 5K swing right here from lead. So looks like they are probably going to be playing that Queen right here and thinking about maybe ditching one of these characters. You've got 3 Namis in hand. I don't think you need 3 of them overall, and so going to take that one right there, trying to preserve as much life as possible on this field for things like Yamato later in the match. And so going to be using Kid and Reiju, a great combo, because the Kid getting a Dawn back, right, and using that minus effect to flood the board a little bit, do some drawing and finding things like Trafalgar Law. That 4-drop Trafalgar Law going to be very good because Enel usually having a big hand, so wouldn't be surprised to see that come down in this next turn. Rocking some of the PRB Yamato Dawn as they top deck a Yamato, it looks like. And that Yamato is going to be important, as I mentioned, as the Enel is going to try to keep life a little bit higher maybe on the sides to be able to pop pretty important characters like that Eustace Captain Kid on the field. But that Nami is going to come down, like I mentioned, and ditch the 0 cost event. Get rid of that Kid. Say, you know what? Your Dawn regeneration is going to be a little bit harder at this point, and so just passing the turn, not opting to swing, just wants to fill the board a little bit more, is trying to pressure them into using that Gordon right here. The Gordon would be able to help bottom deck the Nami and play down another character, but here's the thing, as the Trafalgar Law is, you don't have much Dawn regeneration at all besides this Sachi and Penguin, so we could see something like this Trafalgar Law maybe come down and use that effect. They do have 6 cards in hand, which if you do remember, Trafalgar Law has 7 cards or more in its ability to be able to rip 2 from hand. So maybe going to try to take a life from this Enel first, maybe try to bait, you know, a card or 2 right here, maybe try to get either cards from hand or cards in from life into hand to be able to use the Trafalgar Law. It's been a while, I feel like, since I've done a Trafalgar Law match actually, so a little bit more difficult in my mind. I've had to stop thinking about that guy since he got banned, but using that 2K on the Flampe means that even if the Trafalgar Law swings with this Reiju at the Enel, they can take this life and not have to worry about that 4-drop. So opting to use all the Dawn and play Queen, gonna get a Sanji and Otama right there. Does have to pitch 1 card. You do have 3 Kid Killers, but maybe thinking about that Trafalgar Law right there, because it's very obvious that the opponent is playing around that Trafalgar Law, so maybe getting rid of it is a decent idea. You'd be like, okay, I'm probably not going to use it at all, and passes the turn. So now getting a Gadatsu. Gadatsu, again, very important because this Trafalgar Law still at 4 life is going to be able to take out this Reiju if they want. They do have 8 Dawn, which not really many other better characters to play in this hand right now because you don't have that 8 cost Katakuri. So go ahead and go for the Reiju or the Gordon. I think that's the decision right now, and is just going to be opting for that Gordon. An interesting choice, I think a lot of people would think, but if you think about it this way, you don't really have another good way to get rid of the Gordon and be able to play cards like Yamato and Ace. So might as well get the value now off of the Gadatsu. It's probably not going to be bottom decked unless another power minus comes onto the field right now. And so now you have this Gadatsu that is more than likely going to potentially swing in the next turn, which is very good, I would say, for this Enel. They look like they're in a pretty interesting spot, I would say. Thinking about maybe playing this Pudding down. Pudding would be nice because as a Pudding, you would be able to go ahead and get Dawn back every time you use leader effect. Going to start off with a 5k swing, and so you are behind, I think, 1 Dawn. So Sanji not really in use as of yet, but if you do have this Pudding down, maybe play the Zoro, go ahead, use leader effect, you would be able to play the Sanji down for just 3 cost because of that cost reduction in the hand. Taking that life gets a Katakuri on that 5k swing and is going to think about playing a Sachi Penguin eventually, but is going to play this Pudding first, as I mentioned. Pudding, just a great card that we've seen that was added in OP08 to this deck, really pushed it above the edge and is going to play that Sanji with the rest of the Dawn, use that Sachi Penguin and boost up 2 alongside the Pudding, and going to pass the turn off. So 2 leader effects, not bottom decking anything, but did end up getting some value and getting some characters down, spreading your board really wide. And it's going to go into the turn for the Enel. Thinking about what they want to play, all 10 Dawn, I believe, at this point, so has plenty of options. Is going to play down this ace, gain a life, not going to get rushed, but still going to try to continue building up this board for the Enel side. You know just about now that Enel is going to more than likely play a big body every single turn. So it's going to be up to the law right now to be able to say, okay, am I going to try to race you at this point, right? Do bunches of swings, or am I just going to try to starve you as well? It's a little bit harder to starve when your opponent's not swinging because you can't swing into those characters. And now at 8 Dawn right here, gonna be really struggling to think about what they want to do. The Enel not even at 2 life at this point for Kid and Killer to be active and taking extra power is just going to think about what they want to do. I would say they would probably want to spread around the Dawn a little bit, do some swings, and then go ahead and maybe play down a character or 2 like that Zoro to get an extra swing in could be nice. So looking around where they want to go, is going to attach 1 to the leader and go ahead and swing 6. That 6k swing going to be nice as they get rid of that 2k Frankie in hand. You love seeing 2ks go away, especially at some of these kind of testing the water options. And so were they going to do a minus? It looked like maybe they were. Is going to attach 2, swing another 6 right here. I believe that Charlotte Pudding is a 4k power base and is going to take this life. Going to think about maybe using the trigger. Not sure yet. Could be trash a card, play a character. I didn't exactly get to see what it was right here, but it looks like it is a beige. So the beige is very interesting. You know that the Trafalgar Law could swing a couple more times in this turn, and so you can negate one of those swings entirely, and it looks like they are going to with this queen. Or you could have kept that 2k in hand, maybe especially with the 3 non-counter cards in hand. Very interesting that they decided to use the queen, but maybe providing a feint and making them think that they have more counter in hand that one would anticipate. And so going ahead and swinging another 6, just forcing as many 2ks as possible, really trying to see when 2 1ks will come out onto the field, and is going to take that life, put it in hand. It's a Flampe, another 2k going to be very nice, I feel like, for the Enel. And so thinking about what they want to do, the power levels of things. The thing is now, especially with 5 characters on field, if you do want to play this Gordon, you do have to get rid of one of these characters on the field, right? Because in One Piece, you can only have 5 characters in the character area swinging on the field. So the Gordon is going to have to replace one of those, and that would probably not be beneficial to your game plan. So thinking about what they want to do with the rest of this forward Dawn, you could see some Dawn attached to the Sachi Penguin, maybe swing another 6, but maybe try to think about if they want to keep the blockers up, right? They have that Sanji still that they can swing with. Queen not being able to swing, you know you're going to have at least 1 blocker, but do they want 2? And so maybe thinking about if they want to attach all 4 to the Sachi Penguin and swing 9 could be a game plan. You could also swing 9 with Sachi Penguin, use leader effect, play the Kid Killer, and then go ahead and swing 7 at lead. But going to start off by swinging another 6 right there with that 3 Dawn left. So is going to be on the aggression at this point. We'll see if a 2k is pitched from this Enel's hand. Does have 2 Flampes, 5k counter in total, and it is going to be that Flampe, that 2k right there. And so with 3 Dawn is maybe thinking about which character is better to get rid of. I don't know if it exactly matters being the same cost and power, but maybe trying to think about it if they want to play like the Zoro off of this, right? Play the Zoro, play over one of the characters, and then use leader effect. Maybe play the Kid Killer over another character. Maybe trying to decide which ones they're getting rid of and whatnot. But we'll see exactly what this this law wants to do, and is thinking about using the one to use on a Gordon. And so here goes the Gordon. It is going to come down and replace that Sachi Penguin, like I mentioned, and the Gadatsu is going to be the one that gets bottom decked off of this leader effect, and we'll see what character is played. It looks like it's going to be a Kid Killer. I do like the Kid Killer, especially because when you get to the later stages in the game, right, it is more Dawn efficient to use the Zoro, right? So being one less Dawn is going to be nice. You go ahead, play that Kid Killer for free, but does not swing with the Kid and Killer, right? One of the things that we see a lot of times with Trafalgar Law or against Enel in general is if you don't have any more swings that you want to use after this Kid Killer, right, it's just going to be a hand filter if Enel gets used leader effect, a draw one, trash one, basically. So you don't really want that hand filtering to happen. You want to just be on the aggressive side. And so swinging at the pudding, I believe either the pudding or the Reiju is going to go ahead and block right there with that queen. It is a free block because that queen was active, right? Gotten froze, or the can attack clause from the beige in life. And so now with only 2 more swings left outside of a rush ace, it's going to be interesting to see what this Enel does. So they're thinking about attaching 1. If you attach 1, where do you put it on? It looks like you're putting it on the Nami and swinging 6. We'll see where they opt to go. I can't tell exactly where they wanted it to go, but either way, thinking about blocking with the Sanji is just going to need a block and a 1k, but opts to give the Otama on the 2 with no counter left in hand. So this swing right here, if it connects with a character, is going to be able to take it out no matter what, and is going for that Sanji, is going to take that knockout, especially as the ace is double digit in terms of its power, and double digit as in 10,000 power. It is going to be able to take that knockout with only 3 cards in hand. You don't really have a card combo to be able to get rid of that, and the Yamato taking out that Kid Killer. So Yamato regaining that life, but 3 characters survive on this Law's side of the field, and we'll see if the life regeneration is going to help out Law enough with 8 Dawn in this turn. You have 8 Dawn to mess with. You've got 3 rush characters in your hand and a 2k. Might be the time to go a little bit aggressive at face to see how far you can get them down in a sense. So going to be looking around and seeing what they could do. The awkward thing about the Enel's hand that could be going on in the next turn, they could use the 8 cost Katakuri if this Nami survives on the field. They can put their Nami after swinging it back in life and really force their opponent right there to have 1 less swing, right? Because that Nami KOs 5 costs or less. They could go ahead, use that trigger, and get rid of one of your important bodies on the field, which is literally any character that you have in your deck. So going to be interesting to see where this Law player goes from here. The Enel really just trying to starve at this point and trying to really put the pressure on and forcing the Law player to draw cards constantly and constantly plus cards in hand without taking life. And so this 7k swing is going to take life right away. A 1k counter Gadatsu could have been a worse card to get off of there, and now with 7 Dawn left, it looks like going to be swinging another 7. So last turn we saw them do a lot of 6s. Now we're starting to see them do 7s on this, really trying to test the hand, and is thinking about taking this life. I do not mind this life take right here. It is going to be a Katakuri non-counter card, is going to put 1 in and get rid of a Raigo. Raigo easy get rid of in my opinion, and so with a potentially a couple swings left, is going to attach 3 to the pudding, swing another 7 right here, is probably going to go ahead, swing 7 with lead, and then go in with Kid Killer. So the problem right now for the Enel on this is they only have 4K counter in total in hand. So what they could do is they can counter out of this one, right? Would be 8 to get out of that 7. That law basically swings, takes that life, and then Kid Killer comes in to rush to end the game. And so could be a very interesting spot on this one. A Beige in life would allow you potentially to be saved. Oh, I don't even think a Beige would be able to get you to be saved right here, because a Beige would still only let you have 9,000 in life. And so if you use leader effect as the law, put the Kid Killer down, you still would be able to win the game. And with a non-counter card like Katakuri, this 7K swing is going to get that 8, but a Kid Killer rush is going to be able to steal the win. It looks like Law collecting the win with all it had left in this before its ban does end out on a high note in this one. I know probably a lot of people didn't want to see Law win this, especially in this 3v3, but it was nice to see as time went on. But I think some of the other matches are going on right now, so we'll see if they continue to show the other matches in here. Usually, historically, in the past, they are in the past when the streamed round ends up finishing, they usually continue on into the other ones. So this is the Doffy player that we watched in the previous round go up against a Rob Lucci, and it looks like Rob Lucci having a pretty good board right now. But with this Doflamingo, going to be able to put a card on the top of their deck on this Teach, then attached to Rested Dawn, is going to be able to get a leader effect proc right here, and we'll see what this card is that we put on the top as well. And I believe they would have 4 Dawn left after the leader effect, maybe 5 as well to potentially use with something like the Weevil. Weevil could be nice to get rid of a character or two. Maybe thinking about adding more Dawn to this Doflamingo on the swing. Maybe trying to get rid of a character or two is going to attach for a 9K swing on this leader effect. This leader effect going to pump a Law, and the Law is going to put the Rebecca back in hand, as the Law says, you know, you put one of your characters back in hand and then you put a cost of 4 less from your opponent's field into their hand, so putting the Sengoku back. And so with 1 Dawn left, maybe play this Sengoku again. It depends on whether they prefer the Sengoku or the Buggy that they have in hand. So off of that 9K swing, looks like it was maybe going at life, is going to provide a ton of counter, provide the 0 cost event, as well as 2 1Ks to go to 10. And so drawing this, it looks like at this point that no matter what, the red team is going to win in this 3v3. But I'm curious to see how this one ends up, especially with such a tight game, and that Weevil swing is going to connect in terms of life. And so with 1 left, right, 1 life to 3, a lot of swings still on this Jack side. So looking at the Sengoku and seeing what they want to grab. You could grab that Boa Hancock blocker, which is very nice, right? Allows you to give a Rested Dawn to somebody that could be your leader, and as a blocker, restacking, very good synergy, something that we see a lot with Doflamingos after the starter decks release. So is going to be passing off the turn. The Lucci player drawing only 3 cards in hand, does have Ennis Lobby stage, so does have the ability to wipe a lot of board potentially if they want to, especially with Ennis Lobby before its ban was crucial to defeating decks like Doflamingo, having primarily just 4 cost characters. Very, very easily able to KO for Rob Lucci. So, but with a limited hand size, we'll see at this 10 Dawn turn if they've got what it takes to be able to do it. Only 4 cards in the Doflamingo's hand right now. and so is going to be swinging 5, it looks like, at this law. And so using that leader effect, maybe thinking about what they want to minus, might still be that law right there. Is going to be looking around. What is that? Oh, is that their Dawn sleeve right there? Looks like they were doing the -1 to the Weevil right there. And so swinging 5 at what I presume is the Trafalgar Law, minusing 1 the Weevil to put it at 3, is going to really ask this Doflamingo, okay, do you want to give up a counter card for a card that I'm probably going to be able to get rid of super easily? And they are going to do that, getting rid of that Perona right there, going to keep that law alive. I think that's honestly kind of a smart play in terms of this matchup. You want to keep bodies alive to be able to really combat the Lucci, and especially off of Gecko turns, really combat what this Lucci is trying to do. So going to be doing the Jack effect in OP08, something Rob Lucci players will be doing consistently in the Western format of OP08. Going to rest the character, draw 1, trash 1, and then KO a 3 cost or less. So because that leader effect minus the Weevil, put it down to 3, is going to KO it off the Jack effect. And then that 7 swing from the Rob Lucci, getting rid of the law. And so here comes another 4 for the Rebecca that was put back in hand just a moment ago. Gonna grab what I presume was a 2K again and play that Spandine off of the Rebecca effect. Playing off the Rebecca effect is going to play another Lucci that they had in trash. A great crazy combo that a lot of people, after the ban list was announced, could not believe still existed in the game. But that Rebecca Spandine Lucci combo helping KO everything off the field and looking pretty good for the Rob Lucci deck. And so with the rest of the 5 Dawn is going to play a Sabo, a great card. And even with only 1 card left in hand with those bodies on the field, it's going to be an uphill battle for this Doflamingo to be able to get back in and close out this game. You've got 2 blockers on the field. A Gravity Blade could do it in terms of being able to take these blockers off of the field, right? But you would really have to worry about losing right then and there. And with that Boa Hancock doing a little bit of reordering on the field, looks like no chance of a Gravity Blade coming down and taking out these characters. So the 3 on this restack right here is going to be interesting. We'll see if the Doflamingo wants to go ahead and use leader effect, right? We did see a Jinbei in there, so especially if one of those 3 cards is a 2K, might be something. It looks like a Mihawk is in there, Dracula Mihawk 2K, so could be something where we see Jinbei up top played onto the, or I'm sorry, a Weevil on the top played onto the field through the leader effect, and then drawing into a Dracula Mihawk to add an extra 2K in hand could be very nice. So thinking about what they want to do right now, it looks like they may be thinking about putting the Gecko on the top of the deck. That Gecko, the starter deck Gecko, the SP version of the starter deck Gecko, is going to be able to grab something from the trash, presumably a 2K, and it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. Going to be grabbing a Jinbei, so actually not going for the 2K, instead going for potentially a Jinbei to be able to flood the board, say, you know what, I don't think I'm actually going to die in this next turn, but it might be better for me to just build up the board, especially if you've got another Weevil in hand, right? Jinbei being able to play down another 7 Warlords of the Sea character in here could be good. And so really thinking, what do they want to do? Thinking about the math, maybe talking to their teammates on what exactly is the best possibility to grab off of this Gecko, because if you do not know, in these 3v3s, the person in the middle is able to communicate on either side to their teammates, but their teammates on the sides can only communicate with the middle. So it brings a lot of interesting strategy into the One Piece trading card game in terms of these 3v3 battles. Remember, 2 out of 3 and the winning team that gets 2 advances. So playing for pride at this point, playing a Mihawk off of that Jinbei is going to get another swing in through. I mean, you didn't really want to drop a 2K, but there could have been worse options in your hand off of this Jinbei. So probably at least thankful for that, and maybe doing a little hand filter as well through the Mihawk swing effect if they wanted to. So does have a little bit of value in there, and with bodies on the field is going to potentially be pressuring at this point after that block was on the Rebecca from that leader swing. And so now back at 10, Dawn is going to be wondering what this Jack wants to do. And so going to start out with an AK swing. I like starting out with an AK swing. Oh no, not swinging, actually using the Jack filter effect to be able to get rid of that Boa Hancock. So ended up, how did they do a Tempest kick and I just did not notice? It looks like they did use a Tempest kick at the beginning of the turn, but I was explaining something else and did not notice the Tempest kick being on the Boa Hancock, right, putting it at a 1, and then that Jack effect taking out that Boa. So going to see where it goes from here. You lose out on that AK swing, which is interesting, but you've got so much Dawn to work with now at this point, especially with stuff in your hand. You don't have a huge hand, but you do have something to go on. And with that 6K swing, bare 6K swing, no Dawn attached, just taking out that Gecko. Maybe nice to use this stage. Minus one of these 4 costs. Looks like it's going to be the Mihawk right there, and is going to be attaching 1 to swing 6 right now. And so that 6 is going to put away a stage and a who's who, going to be minusing 1 on one of those characters. And so now if there's another Tempest kick that gets hit, Tempest kick Rob Lucci would be killer and maybe secure the game for this Lucci deck, especially as this swing right here, this 6K swing, is thinking about connecting. Now they are in time, so it looks like the Rob Lucci is going to be turn 0 at this point. Remember, in time you do get 3 turns. At least in these tournaments you get 3 turns. I don't know if the 5-minute rule applies, but in the West it's either 5 minutes or 3 extra turns, starting with turn 0 with whoever is currently playing. So turn 0 going to be this Lucci player. We'll see exactly what he does. Think the Doflamingo player now having more time right now, right? Because we are in overtime, maybe really thinking, okay, is it better to take the life or is it better to counter out? Because they could counter out of the swing if they wanted to. They could give up one of these 2Ks in hand. They've got a Crocodile or a Buggy that they could give up right now and get out of the swing. And it looks like Crocodile is going to be the one, this Rob Lucci connecting in the swing is going to hit that life. And so with 4, Dawn now is going to play a Khalifa, going to draw 2 and trash 2, going to be a Sabo, and Ice Age is going to -2 on one of those characters. And that Rob Lucci, like I mentioned, going to be taking out both of them. So a lot of different outs for this Rob Lucci deck on the Doflamingo, and it looks like they might secure the game right here. So turn 1 is going on this Doflamingo. Still a chance though, I would say, especially with no cards in hand. But one thing that is for certain is if you don't hit game now, right, there's a lot of swings coming your way, and you do have some counter in hand, but you only have 3 cards, right? So you would have to get some lucky triggers and or 2Ks to be able to get out of this one. So not looking good for the Doflamingo in this game. Is going to be attaching to, going to potentially swing 7 right now. Not sure if they'll use the leader effect, but is thinking about, I think they're thinking a lot right now about where they would be distributing the cards in terms of like a counter attack, right? Because you can't go for game. You don't have rush cards at this point. You don't have things like reject or anything to just take out an extra life for a price. And so is going to think on where they want to go. I I think maybe your best advantage at this point is probably going for characters, right? How can you get characters off the field? Do you have the ability to bounce back characters? Do you have the ability to KO characters, bottom deck characters? But with a limited hand size like so, this 7k swing right here is going to use that leader effect and play this Weevil to draw a card, that card being a Dracul Mihawk that we saw earlier. Or was it? Yeah, I think it was a Dracul Mihawk. So using another 4 for another Weevil is going to draw another card. Going to be a Jinbei. You can't play the Jinbei because you only have 3 Dawn left, but you do have some stuff in hand and is just going to pass off the turn. So got rid of that one Rob Lucci, but has a couple swings that they need to get rid of. But now we're in an interesting spot where when you swing 7 right here, you're really testing out the hand. So getting rid of a 2k, 1k is going to go in now, thinking about, okay, what could they have in hand at this point? Because this 7k swing right here connecting is going to grab a Sengoku, a 9k swing, going to take this life, and with some counter, the rest of the Dawn is going to give it up to the Rob Lucci in such a commanding spot, especially on that final turn where they played the Khalifa and Rob Lucci to get rid of all of those characters, is going to take the victory. They did end up sweeping, so that final match actually did not necessarily matter, but for Pride's purposes, right, you definitely don't want to be the only one on your team to lose a match. So an excellent set of games, especially that back half of the last one that we saw. I'm glad we got a little bit more to be able to show you all, but honestly, just really showcasing in this video as well how strong those 2 cards are that eventually got banned. Did they announce it in here? I can't remember if they did. We've got their deck lists if you want to see them, so let's just take a gander at them. Now, I'm going to be only showing you the Enel and the Doflamingo deck list because those don't have any banned cards in them. But if you do want to go look at those deck lists from the Rob Lucci or the Red Purple Law for, you know, like historical purposes, you can check out OnePieceTopDecks.com and be able to see those in the 3v3. Just check out the OP08 section and you'll be able to see 3v3 winners, and you'll see those deck lists. This Enel, pretty standard, I think, to what we saw. You've seen this in previous videos as well. Pretty much just a streamlined deck, right? A streamlined version of Enel. No cheekiness, no cuteness, I would say. The cutest part that you get in this deck is the 2 Shirahoshi, which we see more often than not in Enel decks. So honestly, if you had to take a guess of what Enel would look like in OP08, especially pre-ban, this is what it looks like. And if you're looking as well as an Enel player, someone that loves playing Enel or maybe wants to try playing Enel out west in OP08, this is probably the great starting point that you can do in your testing against the meta. You may have to switch it up a little bit just based on, you know, the bans and what happened, you know, because Black Hill Luffy dominates right now, is arguably the best deck in format. You have Doflamingo making a strong presence alongside things like Reiju, Bonnie. Lucci still a good pick overall despite getting Ennis Lobby banned, but again, this is a pretty good place to start with. It's probably one of the more consistent versions of the deck as well. And sometimes, especially in One Piece, consistency is king. This is the Doflamingo players deck list though, especially with the starter decks that released. A lot of Doflamingos moving away from the 10-drop Kaido package, right? Because of the addition of excellent cards like Boa Hancock that we saw in that game. Marshall D. Teach, I love this card in Doflamingo. I think it's such a good card and you definitely should play it. And also this Trafalgar Law SR that we actually did see in that game, putting away the Rebecca, if you remember. But this Doflamingo, again, pretty kind of like low to the ground, focusing more on spamming the board and constantly pressuring you with characters coming out every single turn, especially with effects that bring up Rested Dawn to one of your leader characters, like this Marshall D. Teach in the early game, like this Boa Hancock right here in the mid game, sort of. And also really threatening things as well in the game, like Jinbei, like Weevil, also Charlotte Pudding, right? There are a lot of decks right now that if they don't stabilize off of a Charlotte pudding, especially as a Doflamingo, you really just win the game off of that, because especially towards the mid game and late game, you know, your opponent having filtered their hand in different ways to be exactly what they want it to be, a well-timed Charlotte pudding could very well just get you the game from there. Really strong deck in my opinion, really cool stuff. You do have that Perfume Femur. I prefer this card in this deck and not Nami. Don't play it in Nami, I hate that card. And plenty of different restacking opportunities in the early game with the Perona that we see right here and the Buggy, really just taking out Doflamingo in general. We've seen a lot of times prior to kind of this ST17 version of the deck, the new starter deck editions, that these Doflamingos were always running that 3-drop blocker Doflamingo, right, to help restack. But with multiple options now on the restack, as well as another blocker to be able to restack, that can also be played off of the leader effect. It's just so good, man. This is arguably the best deck heading into OP09, especially the post bans. Definitely inside the top 3. And don't worry, in later videos as well, we're going to talk about things like buy list heading into OP09. What cards should you be getting right now to prepare you for the future, or even in this format right now before they spike up in price, as well as potentially deck lists. I know several people have liked when I've done kind of the here's a whole bunch of deck lists from this format, and that people are starting to play, especially as we get a couple weeks in, maybe one of the majors coming around. I don't know when the next one is for sure, but we'll definitely cover it when it does. People are really excited about the OP09 format, especially myself. I'm very excited to be able to watch post-ban something that is not Trafalgar Law. But thank you again so much for watching. My name is Jake, and again, if you want to support the channel, you can check out the link in the description to my Mecha Japan affiliate link. And if you order something off of there, because they've got booster boxes, figures, playmats, sleeves, and pretty much everything one piece. Until October 1st, you can save $5 on any order of $80 or more USD by using code atrocious5. So thank you so much again. Hope to see you in the next video, and yeah, I'm excited to get back into regular content at this point.